Hello students, welcome to the video tutorial series on JavaScript, and in this video we are going to see about the session 1, that is Introduction to JavaScript. So let's get started. Today's learning objectives are evolution of JavaScript, and later we are going to see about the various features present inside the JavaScript. Even we are going to see about the definitions of HTML and the meaning of DOM, and later we are going to learn about how the JavaScript is going to work and what are the major differences between the client-side JavaScript and the server-side JavaScript. And at last, we are going to learn about the advantages and disadvantages of JavaScript. So all these things will be covered in this particular video. So to first, we'll dive inside evolution of JavaScript, how this JavaScript methodology all started all the way. So earlier in 1990, they were using only static web page. So now what is a static web page? Static web page is just like our Wikipedia page. If you enter some information, even after like 1 month or 1 week, the same information will be there. There will be no change in the information. If you see just now 5 minutes before, the same information will be there. Even after 1 hour, the same information will be there. So there will be no change in the web page. So there will be no dynamism exhibiting that particular web page. Am I right? So in that situation, this particular static web page is a big flop. So what they thought is, no, the static web page won't work for a while. So what should I do? So later they need the help of a programming language. So in those days in 1990, a programming language was there, like C language and C++ was there. But the problem was like in website for web pages, there was no programming language. So that is the reason they have bought a scripting language. So they can't embed a programming language inside a markup language. So they embedded a scripting language inside a markup language, that is the HTML language. So later in 1995, what happened is when they thought that they need some dynamism and other things, the guy named Brendan Each, he was an employee working in Netscape company. So what he did along with his employees is that, okay, we need some dynamism in the web page. So what we will do is that we'll create a new concept known as JavaScript, which is a scripting language which can be embedded inside the web page, and people start using all those programming language methodologies in the website. So first, he was the forefather of JavaScript. We can even say like that. So later, what happened is Sun Microsystems have acquired that LiveScript concept, and they have converted the name LiveScript into a JavaScript. So this is how the JavaScript has arisen. And later, if you see, this JavaScript was done by Sun Microsystems. It was very popular in those days. Suddenly, this Microsoft company has come inside, and they also have created a new concept known as new scripting language known as JavaScript. And the problem with that JavaScript is it works only in Internet Explorer. It doesn't work in any other browsers. So that was another big flop of that particular JavaScript. So people started using the JavaScript more and more and more, and it became quite popular. At that time, what happened is Netscape, the concept was started by Netscape. So what they did is they have acquired that JavaScript again. They got some license from Sun Microsystems. So Netscape got the JavaScript again, and later this JavaScript must be standardized. So in order to standardize this particular JavaScript, there was an organization known as ECMA International. ECMA stands for European Computers Manufacturers Association. So they have to standardize the particular language. Now, what is the meaning of standardize? Standardize in the sense like if I'm buying a gold, it has to be standardized by hallmark. Am I right? If I buy some food products, it has to be standard by AGMARK or ISO grade. So likewise, there are some standards existing for food products also. Likewise, for programming languages, for scripting languages, there's a committee where they provide all the standards. So that ECMA International has provided a standard for JavaScript, and later it was called as ECMA script. In short, they can even call it as ECMAScript. So this is the whole history about how JavaScript has arrived. I hope you understood this. Now we'll concentrate on what are the various features of JavaScript. The first feature of JavaScript is it is object-based scripting language. Since you already learned C++, everything is based on objects. Am I right? So similarly, JavaScript is also, everything is purely based on objects. So using that object, we can use that embedded inside our HTML code. So with the help of that, we can write even class programs So completely JavaScript is a object-based scripting language that objects will be quite helpful for you. Now, what do you mean by objects here? We created H1 tag, we created a form tag, we created a table tag. So each and everything in JavaScript is considered as objects. So in HTML we'll call them as a tag, but whereas in JavaScript we'll consider them as objects. So this was one of the main feature of JavaScript. And second main feature is lightweight scripting language. So what does this lightweight scripting language mean? Normally in languages like C and C++ or any other language, we have data types. We have some memory locations. So if I enter a variable, a value to a variable, that variable will go and store in a particular memory declared with the data type. If it is an integer, it carries 2 bytes. If it is a float, it carries 4 bytes. There was a memory allocation available. But in JavaScript, there is nothing like that. So all are considered as objects only. So it doesn't mean that I'm integer, I'm float, no, nothing like that. Everything is an object. So I'll give an example to you. If I have a bottle in my hand, if I fill that bottle with a water, now that empty bottle will become a water bottle. Now you see that bottle is same. When I fill with value, the value is changing. Now imagine you're pouring that water outside. Now again you're filling with a milk. Now it becomes a milk bottle. So from this we can understand that when the value comes inside, the name is changing. So it doesn't have a name, predefined name. So when you provide the value only, you'll come to know about the type. So that's the reason it is known as a lightweight scripting language. But whereas in C and C++, it is not known as a lightweight scripting language. It's a heavyweight programming language. So this is another one of the main feature of JavaScript, where all the variables which you declare will be lightweight in nature. Okay, the next one is interpreted language. Now, what is this interpreted? So before going to interpreted, we have to concentrate on one particular thing, that is compiler. So since we studied C and C++ before, C and C++ executes based on compiler. So what is the meaning of that compiler? Compiler will also find errors. Find errors, and it will ask you to resolve that errors, debug those errors. So it will, but the main important point of compiler is it will check all the errors at a stretch. But whereas interpreter will also check errors, will also ask you to debug your program, but it will do it line by line. So that is the main reason interpreter is very slow in nature, but whereas compilers are very fast in nature. So JavaScript uses interpreter. So where does this interpreter present? This interpreter is present in each and every browser of your computer. You take Internet Explorer, you have an interpreter. You take a Google Chrome, Firefox, you have an interpreter. So interpreter is not a separate software that you have to install. So when you install your browser, automatically interpreter is present inside that. So when you execute some program inside that, automatically the interpreter will interpret your code. So you need not bother about that. I hope so you understood that. The fourth and the main one is case sensitive. I think this term is very familiar to you. So in C and C++ also, whatever the programs, the variables, functions we declare, all are case sensitive in nature. That means that if it is in small letter, you have to provide in small letter. If it is in capital, you have to provide in capital. So you can't change the cases. If it is a lowercase, you have to give in lowercase. If it is uppercase, you have to give uppercase. So they are very case sensitive in nature. And the fifth one is embedded directly into HTML code. So if I write a HTML code, directly I can embed my JavaScript inside my HTML code with the help of script tag that we have already learned in our first unit. And the major important thing is JavaScript, we need not purchase any license like Microsoft products. So if you have a web browser, all web browsers are JavaScript enabled, maximum 90%. So we need not purchase any license. So you can just write a program, directly you can execute, and the output will come in front of you. And the next one is manages validation. So what is the meaning of validation? Validation means to check the errors present in our program. So knowingly or unknowingly, we would have made some logical errors. Okay, for instance, like I want to enter, I'm giving a field, I'm giving a text box known as enter your phone number. So phone number must be, imagine it's a mobile number, it must be minimum 10 digits. Am I right? So 95% of the mobile numbers are minimum 10 digits. So imagine I'm asking the user to enter 10 digits. Now the user is entering only 6 digits. Now it is not considered as a mobile number. Now who will validate it? So JavaScript provides facility for validation. Now, if you write some validation code in JavaScript, it will inform your user that, sorry sir, you have to enter minimum 10 digits for the mobile number. You can't enter 6 digits. So it will validate, check and inform the user regarding that. So that is one of the main feature of JavaScript. And the last one is it is used to create cookies. Now, what is the meaning of these cookies? Cookies are nothing but when you browse something, in your history you will have some cookies. So what is the use of that? So using that cookies, you can get back the old information, whatever you have entered that is stored in your web browser, local storage. So JavaScript even provides the facility of that, storing the cookies, the past information. Even when you type for the one time, imagine you're entering your email ID and you're signing out. Again, when you go inside, when you type one particular letter of email ID, the email ID appears. Again, you need not type, just you have to select it. Automatically that will appear. So how it is possible? Because your browser is remembering your cookies. So JavaScript also helps us to manage and create our cookies. So these are the various features of JavaScript. I hope so you understood this. And next one is, what is DHTML? DHTML stands for Dynamic Hypertext Markup Language. Already we know about it. So DHTML is a combination of 4 main technologies, that is HTML, CSS, scripting languages and then DOM. So without the help of these 4 main technologies, DHTML is not at all possible. So again I'm telling, DHTML is not a language, it is a combination of these 4 technologies together. HTML, CSS, scripting language. Now in place of scripting language, there are many scripting languages like JavaScript, ASP.script, PHP.script. Okay, but here we are going to learn only about JavaScript, and the other one is DOM. So, and after this, why we are using this DHTML mainly? It is used to increase our web page interactivity. If I want to interact with my web page in a dynamic pattern, I have to use this DHTML. But whereas I can't interact with my Wikipedia page in a dynamic manner because that is a static web page. So DHTML is a best example. We can give like a Facebook, where every second there will be some status coming on, some interactivity will be there, someone will send some messages, some interaction happens every now and then. So that is possible with the help of DHTML, where your web page is dynamic. Now we will learn about what is DOM. So what is the meaning of this DOM? DOM stands for Document Object Model. And this DOM is not a language, it is a framework in which your JavaScript will work. Okay, so without the help of DOM there is no JavaScript, without the help of JavaScript there is no DOM. So it is like interrelationship among them. So DOM plays the backbone of JavaScript. If there is no DOM, there is no JavaScript. Why? Because each and every element in your web page, I already discussed in your previous slides, each and every element like H1, paragraph tag or button tag, form tag, table tag, any tag, frame tag, all these tags, elements are called as objects in DOM, because JavaScript will take care of only objects. That's what I've said. A document itself is an object made up of objects like forms, images, anything. Any element in your form is considered as an object. Now I'll show you one small example. Now just see this image. Here you can see that there is like a family hierarchy, where our family starts from grandmother, grandfather, next comes to mom, dad, and at last us, you and your sibling, your cousins, everyone. So it is showing like a hierarchy. Am I right? So same manner, your browser, when you're typing a program, when you're typing any program, your browser will also see in this particular pattern. Imagine in this, we typed a table program. Inside the table program, we have the TR section, that is a table row section, and then table data, and the table data also we are given here. So when you're typing the program in your HTML, your browser sees exactly like this. It doesn't see the way you type the program. It sees in this particular hierarchical tree structure. So that is the reason here it treats each and everything as an object. Here TR is an object, TD is an object, and here or the river, the Charlie, the text, whatever you have written here, that is an object. The table tag, body, everything is an object here. It doesn't mean that only one particular thing is an object. Whatever you type is considered as an object in DOM. I hope so you understood that. Now we will see about the working of JavaScript, how JavaScript works. So imagine this is your computer, this is your browser. From here you are sending a request to the web server. So the request can be anything, when it reaches the web server will process it and immediately it sends a response of your HTML, CSS and JavaScript again to your web browser. So the request and response operation will be helpful in order to work with JavaScript. And the JavaScript which we are going to work in our syllabus is curriculum is JavaScript is a client-side scripting language. We are not going to concentrate on server-side scripting language, but I'll tell you what is the meaning of server-side. But we will not be concentrating on server-side scripting language. We will be concentrating only on client-side scripting language. So now, as I already said in my previous slide, now we will concentrate on what is a client-side JavaScript and what is a server-side JavaScript. First, to start with, what is a client-side JavaScript? Client-side means that the JavaScript code runs on the client machine, that is, in my machine, in my local computer. When the JavaScript, type a JavaScript program, if I execute in my own computer, there is a client-side JavaScript. But whereas the server-side means the JavaScript code runs directly on the server without running on my client. I hope you understood this. The second one is it is used as a front end where the users can see the source code from the browser. Now, if I type a JavaScript program in my HTML page and when I right click and if I see the source code, I can see the JavaScript coding because that is a client-side JavaScript. But similarly, if I type a server-side program that is in the backend, the users cannot see the source code. Whatever I type in the server-side JavaScript, the JavaScript file cannot be seen because it will be hidden from the user. And the second one is, the third one is, it does not need any server interaction. Since all the operations are done in the client side itself, we don't need to contact any server. But whereas in server side, as the name states, it definitely needs the server interaction. As imagine, as we already said, we don't need any server interaction. So because of that, we don't disturb the server often, and because of that, the server will get a minimum load. But whereas here in server-side JavaScript, we often disturb the server to exhibit the dynamism in our web page. Because of that, the server load may be very heavy. And the next one is, since a client-side scripting language, I already said it won't hide anything. Since it doesn't hide anything and if it shows everything to the user, then it is very less secure. The security aspect in client-side JavaScript is very less. But whereas in server-side JavaScript, the scripting hides everything from the user, so it is more secure. So when compared to client side and server side is more secure, and the problem is it takes huge load on the server. That is one of the disadvantage of server side JavaScript, whereas in client side JavaScript it manages everything on the client itself without disturbing the server. So each and everything has its own advantages and own disadvantages. But even though we will see about the advantages and disadvantages of JavaScript in general, not about client or server, JavaScript in general. So first we'll concentrate on the advantages. The first advantage is it is widely supported in all the web browsers, as we already know. Majority of the web browsers support JavaScript, and I already said in my previous slide, it has a very less server interaction. I'm talking here about the client-side JavaScript. And the third one is it has an increased interactivity. So I already said in our previous slides, like dynamic HTML, we already provide interactivity with your web page. So whenever you want, you can just browse the information and get it back, and you can interact with the web page, and the web page will interact with you. There will be a huge interaction among yourselves. So it exhibits dynamism. And the fourth one is it is simple to learn. That is one of the easiest language. JavaScript is very easy if you're strong with like C and C++, like control statements, objects, classes. If you're strong with that, this is very, very easy, very simple. And the fifth one is it can be used in a very huge variety of applications. It means if you want to create some mini web page with great dynamism and other things, you can use JavaScript. It may be a server side or client side, that doesn't matter. And the disadvantage part is client-side JavaScript does not allow operations on files. This is one of the drawback of client-side JavaScript, because server-side JavaScript alone will be concentrating on files. But whereas the client-side JavaScript will not allow operations on files. This is one of the major flaws, major drawback of client-side JavaScript. And the other one is sometimes JavaScript may not respond in some web browsers if it is disabled. We have options in some web browsers where you can disable the JavaScript. If you disable the JavaScript, whichever updated browser you have, the JavaScript won't work. So we have to make sure that our that option is enabled in the web browser. But by default, all web browsers are enabled with that. But sometimes if someone disables that, and if you execute a JavaScript code, it might not work because the option is disabled over there. So that is one of the disadvantage. So, and we came to the end of the session. And the next session we'll be learning about the overview of JavaScript. I hope you understood this in this particular session. And if you have any further doubts, you can just mail me, and I'll be very happy to clear your doubts. So thank you. Thanks a lot.